Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic, designing a culture of lifelong skill management. Designing a culture of lifelong skill management, reskilling and upskilling. Our facilitator tonight is Monisola Oyelaja, and I'm particularly excited that she's the one taking this session. I'll read her profile very quickly. Monisola is an innovative and result-driven people and culture practitioner with a proven track record of driving organizational success through strategic human resource initiatives across various industries, including banking, management, consulting, FMCG, and pharma tech. As a lifelong learner with over 13 years experience, she continues to combine her expertise in talent management, organizational development, culture transformation to nurture high-performing teams and align HR strategies with business objectives. She has a master's degree in employment and labor relations from the University of Lagos and a bachelor's degree in theater arts and mass communication from the University of Benin. Her core strength lies in content development, instructional design, employee engagement, performance management, change management, and so on and so forth. All right. She is a member of the Association for Talent Development Personnel USA and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Personnel Institute of Training and Development, NITAD, Nigeria, and an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. She has developed several innovative initiatives that demonstrated her dedication to developing talent. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to present to you Monisola Oyelaja as she takes us on designing a culture of lifelong skill management. Over to you.
Good evening, Mr. Adyashu, my Oga, as I always call him. Good evening, everybody. My sincere apologies for joining late. We had a couple of technical issues that we're trying to sort out. It's not in our nature to run behind time. Good evening, everyone. If you can hear me, please say hi.
I can hear you, ma.
Thank you. So quickly, I would open by saying that Nelson Mandela said something very profound. He said, education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, and that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, and that the child of a farmer can become a president of a great nation. So it is very important that as HR practitioners, as learning and development experts, as organizational development specialists, we must continuously live a life of learning, reskilling, and upskilling. What are the things we're going to be looking at today? Very quickly, because I know that, so that I don't plague us with information overload, quickly, we're going to be looking at some strategies to cultivating a learning culture. Number one, for the individual, and then number two, for the organization. So let's dive into it. The aim of this is to empower all HR professionals, like I said, L&D specialists and leaders in their spheres to create a culture that values skill enhancement and supports a future-ready workforce. At the end of this session, I would hope that every one of us will be upskilled and reskilled, and let me use the term gingered to be able to implement a consistent culture of lifelong learning, both in our personal lives and professionally as well. Data is very key. So I'm going to start with data this evening. This data comes from the Organization of Learning and Development, the L&D James Bond himself. It highlights a couple of things that is very noteworthy. It says that 52% cited okay, so they took a sample size of L&D, human resources, CEOs, and learners generally in the Nigerian sphere, and just a few in Canada and in America. And cited at the end of that session, that report, it stated that 52% cited limited time as the biggest learning challenge for them. I don't know if you are part of that statistic. 49% want better L&D business alignment. So 49% of the people that were in that research said that they wanted L&D to be aligned to the business environment, meaning that it's not that aligned. 3, that curriculum development, instructional design, and data analysis are the top 3 skills that are priority for 2024. Let us pause a bit and ask ourselves a question. Which of these skills do you have? Data analysis? Can you design curriculum or content in your place of work, personally as an individual? And then finally, in this L&D report, there was a highlight that 38% sought tech integration so that their learning can be enhanced. When we look at data analysis, because that carries 52% of this whole analysis, we see that you have about 20 skills of a data analyst on the right-hand side of my screen. You'll see SQL, data analysis, database communication, data visualization, statistics, programming, ETL, and so on and so forth. There are 20 skills that a human resource, an organizational development, a learning and development expert must have 20 of them. So moving from there, let us begin to define the key concepts in this session. Number 1, we say lifelong learning. Number 2, we're talking about reskilling and upskilling. Number 3, we're talking about culture and designing a culture. Number 4, we're talking about skill management. Let me start from skill management. So under skill management, we're looking at experience. What is our experience like? What's your ability as a professional? What's your growth trajectory as a professional? What are the things that you've learned this year? We're ending the first quarter now. If you're going to assess yourself, evaluate yourself, what are the things that you will say you have? What are the skills that you say you have gotten? How have you been able to manage your own skill and competence as an individual? Let's move to the popular one, reskilling and upskilling. Of course, it says that upskilling is to sharpen our current skills, probably a change in career, probably a gap that you want to fill. And then, of course, reskilling is a total career change or an opportunity to move into a different role in your organization. At least we've seen Madam Stella, she has successfully moved from human resources into operations. She's the current CEO of our organization. Culture. What then is culture? Experiences, beliefs, values, principles, actions, and results. This is either informed or you become it. It's something that is consistent. So now let's go to the main crux of the matter, lifelong learning. Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to design a culture that helps us to consistently learn and consistently develop our competencies and skills as professionals. It says here that lifelong learning is continuous. So it's not something that, if you look at the page, the very first page of this presentation, you would see that picture. That picture, I want us to see that together. You see this picture of a young child and an old lady. You can see that lifelong learning is consistent. It's not something that, I just want to gain this particular knowledge. No, it's consistent, it's deliberate. It can either be formal, informal. It exists from cradle to the grave. Secondly, all learning activities undertaken throughout a lifespan is classified under the concept lifelong learning, with the aim of improving knowledge and competencies, like we've been saying. Finally, lifelong learning is an approach that moves the biggest responsibility from the learning person, not from the learner from the organization. So the responsibility for lifelong learning is not on an organization. It is on the individual. It's the individual's responsibility. It's not that I'm in this particular organization, they don't have a training budget. It is the fact that you are taking responsibility as an individual, because I always say it in my class, anytime I train, that you are a brand. And as a brand, you must give value. So what value would you be giving to people when you yourself do not, is what you have you would give now, Abby? So when you yourself have not been skilled, have not been reskilled, have not gotten new knowledge, are not keeping abreast of technology, how would you be able to impact your organization or even yourself? So in this session, we're going to be looking at the individual, and we're also going to be looking at the organization. How do we design? What are some of those strategies you can use to design a culture of consistent lifelong learning? And then, of course, we'll look at what the organization can also do at this point. Please feel free to stop me at any time, and also feel free to ask any questions, or feel free to make your suggestions at any time. We have a story here. It's a story about Samson, and we'll be discussing immediately after this story. Once upon a time, there was Mark, a dedicated employee at a manufacturing company that prided itself on tradition and stability. Mark had been working in the same role for over a decade, mastering his task and feeling secure in his position. How many of us are like Mark? I hope none of us is like Mark this evening. He was content with his routine and saw little need for continuous learning, upskilling, or reskilling in his role as a production line supervisor. As technology evolved and automation crept into the manufacturing industry, the company began to introduce new processes and machinery to increase efficiency and productivity. However, Mark was resistant to change. He believed that his years of experience were sufficient to carry him through, dismissing the need to adapt to new technologies or acquire additional skills. Over time, Mark's refusal to embrace lifelong learning and upskilling began to show its consequences. The company's restructuring efforts led to the automation of tasks that were once manual, rendering Mark's role redundant. Despite his loyalty and dedication, Mark found himself facing the harsh reality of job obsolescence. And as the news of his impending job loss unfolded, Mark was devastated. He had never imagined a scenario where his role would become obsolete. The stability he had once cherished was suddenly shattered, leaving him unsure of his next steps. The financial strain of unemployment began to take a toll on Mark and his family, leading to stress and uncertainty about their future. With his skills outdated and his confidence shaking, Mark struggled to find new employment opportunities in a competitive job market that demanded digital literacy, adaptability, and a willingness to learn new skills. The once comfortable life he had built for his family now seemed precarious highlighting the harsh reality of the consequences of complacency in a rapidly evolving world. Mark eventually lost his job. His young children were sent out of school, and his wife started to disrespect his authority. So now, having listened to this tale of Samson, what are some of the problems we can identify? We're going to do this together. So I want you to hit the chat box. If you're with me, please hit the chat box, and let's start to see what are some of those problems in the life of this beautiful, our wonderful man here. Can we start to hit the chat box? Can I start to see your chat? What are some of those problems based on our session today? Designing a culture of lifelong learning. I'm not really able to see, so if you can, I don't know who can help me. Can we hit the chat box? What are some of the problems we're identifying in the story, in the tale of Samson? Samson Mark. Okay, somebody said, Akinola Arigbede said, change management. Okay, so let me start to write that down. Change management. Okay, Olamilekan Ogunyemi says, no future plan. And his unwillingness to adapt to change. Okay, Comfort Oshun, he wasn't proactive enough to identify the skills of the future and develop himself accordingly. Folusha Odeyemi, he was not aware of the changes in his work environment. Amazing, amazing insights. Change management, no future plan. So we'll say NFA Abi. He wasn't proactive. He wasn't aware of the changes in his environment. Okay, let me just take 3 more and then we'll go back. Mark was adamant to change and lost in overconfidence. Amazing. That's from Etini Akpabio. God bless Agidi. He was too comfortable with his current role. Abio. Great Grace says he stopped learning. Obi Eze said his refusal to upskill. T.O. too comfortable with what he knows. MD Ademola Phillips, he was just complacent. Amazing insights, amazing insights. Please keep your comments coming, but let's just quickly go ahead. I did this with a couple of my mentees, and they came up with all this. Everything you said is correct, plus all this. So he was proud. He lacked a planning culture. He's uninformed. Self-awareness is a major issue. Time management is a major issue. He lacks a mentor, a coach, a sponsor. He's not self-motivated. He's emotionally unintelligent, not flexible, cannot adapt to new styles of learning. Of course, we also see the fact that he had financial constraints. Let's take that out. He did not have productive friendships. As we read this, I want us to introspect, okay? Where do I fall in all this? And then he had a mindset of kesera sera, whatever will be, will be. He wasn't able to prioritize. He lacked leadership and management skills. And major of all, he lacked discipline. He lacked a mental discipline. Okay, Jumoke Ladipo said he became complacent, having quite a number of years in the organization. Amazing. So having identified these problems, What is the critical question we're supposed to ask ourselves? For you as an individual, what would be the benefit of upskilling, of engaging in a culture of lifelong learning? What is the benefit? Does it have any benefit for me to just be like, there's a lot of information out there. What do I even want to learn? Where do I want to start? What is my benefit? What does it benefit me to upskill? So please, let's engage in the chat box. Let's engage. For you as a person, I can see God bless. I can see a couple of people on this chat. So for you, Ajibola Deniro, Akinola Arigbede, Amarachi, blessing. For you as an individual, what would be your gain if you upskilled yourself, if you reskilled yourself, if you engaged in lifelong learning? What will be the benefits? Because if there's nothing in it for the learner, if there's nothing in it for me as an individual, then what am I learning? It's not bringing money now. It's not bringing money, at least immediately. So what is the benefit of this culture we want to build? How would it benefit me? Amazing. So Jumoke says, it makes my work easier. Okay, it makes your work easier when you embrace continuous learning. Amazing. CO, relevance. Fantastic. Relevance. You're relevant. You're not relegated. When they're laying off 20 people in your organization out of 30, you know your name will not be on that list because you're proactive, you're productive, you're competent. Okay, Justice says it increases productivity. So if all these wonderful things are going to happen for you, if you're going to, oh, amazing, confidence, opportunity meets a ready mind. I'll be well prepared for future opportunities. Etini Akpabio there. So if you're going to gain all this, how must we engage? There are some rules of engagement. Just like if I want to be a doctor, I will not go to engineering school. I will go to medical school. I would understand the tenets of the job, the principles, the systems of that particular profession. That's what I want to understand. So what is the system of lifelong learning? What are those habits I must develop as an individual? Ajibola Deniro said you will be considered for a higher role. Fantastic. Thank you so much for this engagement. For us to be able to support ourselves in lifelong learning and for us to be disciplined in our mental space, there are a couple of things we need to do. Number one, remember when we were looking at the problem identification, the very first thing we picked out was that our dear Samson Mark was proud. He was proud. I have 20 years experience. Forgetting that your experience can be obsolete. In fact, data says that information has a timeline now of about 3 months. It's not before that a particular information, you can use it for 5 years. Now, it's even going slimmer. Whatever information you have in the next 3 months, a month is obsolete. So we need, as professionals, for us to be impactful, for us to be confident, for us to gain career advancement, for us to be future ready. We need to be humble and do a lot of self-reflection. We must honestly assess our successes, our failures, especially our failures. When I started with the data. And according to OLXD, they've identified 3 major skills that all HR, L&D, organizational development professionals must have in 2024. And one of it has to do with data. And I showed you about 20 skills: data analysis, data visualization, SQL. We must be able to give data-driven reports. for us to be able to make business cases for whatever initiatives that we want to execute. So first and foremost, we must be humble. We must reflect consistently. We must be open to new ideas, willingness to view life with an open mind. The almost excellent prowess I have in PowerPoint today is not because I brought it from heaven. It's because of a young man named Damilola. He teaches me every day, little by little. I am being trained. I won't say because I have so number of years. I don't. No, we must be humble and we must be open to ideas. We must also have a high propensity to listen to others. We're not always right. It's not your way or the highway. Other people, where information comes out, where that's information you need for excellence, that information you need for impact would come from, might not be the C-suite table. It might just be from the security stand where they are gisting. And so we must have a high propensity to listen to others. We must also aggressively collect information. I'll show you how we can do this easily. And then the willingness to push oneself out of one's comfort zone. We must never be comfortable where we are. We must never be comfortable. I really covet our Oga Adeosun, the prof as I call him. I covet his skill. He's a lifelong learner personified. From Unila to LBS to this to that, is consistently learning, upskilling, reskilling. And if those who have gone before us can do all this, how much more we that are just coming? So how do we put all this together? Benjamin Franklin has given us 3 ways to be able to practice this. Set aside 1 hour every day, at least in the work week. 1 hour. Some of us can be on Instagram for 5 hours. Netflix, Twitter. We work consistently on the go. We must try, we must be deliberate and set aside 1 hour every day to learn. Focus on diverse knowledge sources. We have a large pool of information on the Adeosun channel. We have a large pool of information on YouTube. We have a large pool of information from a variety of sources, CIPM, NITAD, all our professional bodies have a lot of information for us. So we must focus on diverse knowledge sources. We must also apply these skills to ensure retention. If you don't apply it, you can never retain it. As you do it, as you consistently do it. Okay, so now I gained this knowledge on change management. Okay, so for McKinsey, I gained change management, and McKinsey says S. Okay, so how do I even apply that? When I go to the office on Monday or Tuesday, I should find a way, number 1, to train another person on that knowledge I've gained. Number 2, I should find a way to infuse or to align that knowledge into my work, into the flow of my work, so that I would ensure retention. That is for the individual. The individual has to apply themselves consistently. The individual has to ensure that your mind is present. It is said that for you to be able to change a habit, it takes 21 to 28 days. So consistently learn for 1 hour. Imagine if you learn 1 hour every day for 5 days in a week. That's already 5 hours of learning. let's go to the organization, because for the organization to be impacted, the individual must be competent. And so we've dealt with the individual. I will just run through this so that we can call it an evening. There's also a story. I absolutely love stories. Stories help paint a picture of what we want to achieve, and it helps us learn better. It helps me learn better. So we see this company, Salmon Incorporated, recognize that the technology landscape was evolving at an unprecedented pace, requiring employees to adapt to new tools, methodologies, and industry trends constantly. The company identified a gap in skill readiness amongst its workforce and acknowledged the imperative of addressing reskilling and upskilling needs to stay competitive in the market and meet future demands. As a HR, OD, or L&D consultant contracted to solve for market share and revenue growth, what would be your strategy? So that we can stay within the confines of the time allotted, I've identified some of the problems, but please feel free to use the chat box. If you feel there's anything that is not here, please, you can put it in the chat box. Some of the problems I quickly identified from here, of course, they've done the gap analysis for us. So we can see that the leadership needs to be effective so that they don't keep coming into these issues. They need to have a competency framework. That's a course on its own. They also need to be able to do an organizational design. We have a session on that. Opeyemi took us on, in fact, she took us in depth on that. Communication, compensation and benefits, rewards, performance management, staffing and deployment are some of the issues that have come up from Salmon. So what are the strategies that an L&D person, an organizational development specialist, a human resource professional would employ to be able to build this organization for reskilling, upskilling, and a lifelong learning organization, a learning organization, like we are taught in when we are preparing for our CIPM. First, you must initiate a corporate culture that embraces lifelong learning as its core value. Core values are enshrined in the strategic objective of an organization. And so, if learning is embedded in that core value, it's easy for the employees to align with the objectives, especially if there's a buy-in from leadership. Remember what I said earlier about leadership effectiveness. So the leadership is effective, and then they're able to incorporate corporate culture, incorporate lifelong learning into the corporate culture. Also, they should encourage employees to proactively seek skill improvements and learning opportunities. Two, organizations must be able to chart personalized learning paths. In fact, if you look at if anybody needs what I shared, the statistics I shared earlier, the data I shared earlier, you can reach out to me. I would send you the full research. And in that research, you will see that 80% of employees wanted personalized learning paths. As HR professionals, we need to stop just being an order taker. This is what I think it is. Let's do this, let's do that. No. We need to be able to diagnose what the organizational problems are and give tailor-fit solutions. And this personalized learning path is a tailor. In fact, if an organization embraces this, you're solving 80% of your learning challenges in the organization. Of course, a skill gap assessment is very key so that you know where the gaps are what the specific skill deficiencies are. The skill deficiency might just be emotional intelligence. And then you are busy training data. The gap analysis might just say, there's a motivation problem, but you are busy doing something else. So we must do the analysis to be able to come up with bespoke initiatives. Upskilling programs and training workshops are also a very key strategy to designing a culture of lifelong learning. Because digital learning platforms, we must invest in LMS, we must invest in just basic webinars. This that we're doing is part of it. Bringing people together, knowledge sharing sessions, and uploading it on your LMS platforms, part of it. One key culture strategy is collaboration. In fact, for me, is number one out of everything. Collaboration is life. No one person is an embodiment of all the knowledge. As much as we're saying, yes, let's upskill, let's reskill, some of us are still tech backward. At least I was scored 30 today. My coach, my tech coach scored me 30%. I'm doing well. I'm getting better. At least I've left 0. We must collaborate. We run away from Gen Zs. They should be our best friends. Embrace diversity. Embrace collaboration. Interconnectivity. You must go into different departments. What is the digital marketer doing? What is the business development person doing? What is the supply chain person doing? You can't just sit on your seat as HR and, and just be collecting data, be doing leave analysis. No, collaborate. Collaboration is very key. And finally, before we go into the question and answers, it's just simple. Before you are able to give a tailor-fit strategy to a culture of lifelong learning, you must analyze the situation for the organization, design the skills, assess individuals. Each person, you can run a survey, match jobs, select training providers that are competent and that have the best interest of your organization at heart, not that just want to come and collect your money. And then finally, administer the projects and monitor and evaluate. So we've looked at 2 aspects to this topic: upskilling and reskilling, designing a culture of lifelong learning on the individual and on the organization. If you're able to do this successfully for yourself and for your organization, of course, revenue growth, improved employee engagement, your skills will be enhanced. Like some of us said in the chat box, you build your confidence. Innovation is easy. Innovation becomes very easy because you are learning on the go. Informal learning, formal learning, micro learning, bit-sized learning. As you are sleeping, you are learning. As you are waking up, you're learning. I learn from my children. I learn from everything around me. And so from there, you're creative, you're innovative, you're relevant, you're confident. And of course, you become a future-proof professional. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Let's go into the question and answer session. Albert Einstein, I'll end with this. Albert Einstein says, wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. He also says the popular one we all say in our classrooms, the day you stop learning is the day you start to die. Thank you very much once again. Can we take questions, please? If you have your questions, please, you can come on the chat box. We'll be answering 1 or 2 questions, and then we can call it a day or an evening as it is. Do we have questions? Okay. Thank you so much. Akinola Aribede, thank you. I can see the claps. Peace Mirabel, thank you so much. Ade, thank you so much. Thank you for your facilitation. You have a great pitch. Just right to engage an online audience. Thank you very much, Ade. It's very encouraging. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dominic Yang. Thank you. Thank you so much. Apologies, you can't see my face. I'm having a bit of technical issues. Thank you. Insightful session. Thank you so much. So no questions. Okay. Okay, no questions. It was delivered in a concise way. Appreciate you, ma. Thank you so much. Okay, there's a question. Okay, Nene says, what can you do in an organization where there's no budget for training? And the management, okay, you've not finished. Let me just take that, that thought. That's so close to home. What can you do in an organization where there's no training budget? Yes. As strategic human resource professionals, you must be able to build a business case for whatever initiative you have. And there are some little things, we talked about it in earlier, there's some little things you can do as a HR professional in an organization to build credibility. Immediately you build credibility and you gain your stakeholder buying. It's very easy for them to release money to you. They're already seeing what you are doing. One of those little things we talked about is collaboration and communication, digital learning platforms, upskilling programs and training workshops. So let me just break it down. You can easily do a knowledge sharing session. It doesn't cost anything. By the time you begin to collaborate with the subject matter experts in your organization, you put them in a faculty, and then you begin to give them training topics, depending on the skill gaps in your organization. By the time you start to do that, and you are able to measure the impact of those sessions, trust me, by the time you put a proposal together to build a business justification for whatever learning budget that you want, it will be approved. It will be approved. Okay, you said, okay, and the management does not seem to align with the idea of carving out a budget. Of course, which management entrepreneurs, they are busy looking for money. If you put yourself in that shoe, you too, you won't want to bring out money. But immediately there's a justification for it. Immediately you are able to convince from the little things you've done. Very easy, like I said, start with knowledge sharing sessions. Based on your skill gap analysis, okay, there's a gap in communication. There's a gap in Excel skills. There's no how you will not be able to leverage on somebody in your organization that doesn't have at least basic Excel skills. And then if productivity begins to improve and performance begins to improve, you will see that your budget will be approved. We must be proactive. We must be proactive. I don't know if I've answered your question, Nene. Oluwatosin says, Ma, what can you do in an organization where everybody are claiming to be the best? Well, that's a good organization now. That's a very good organization where everybody is the best. Is it showing in the performance results? In your monthly appraisals, in your annual 360 feedbacks, is it showing? that they are the best. If it's showing, then congratulations. You have a performing organization. But if it is not showing, then you as the expert need to go and diagnose. You need to go and do your homework. You need to go and carry out those surveys and see what are the gaps and be able to make it. Thank you so much. I think on that note, okay, she said it's not showing. Oluwatosin, I think you can just chat me up and then we'll take this out of here. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate this, and I'm honored and privileged to be on this platform with all my seniors and all the people that have all the years of experience above me. Thank you so much for this. It was an amazing session. I absolutely enjoyed facilitating and taking all the questions and also reading all the comments. Thank you very much and have a good evening. You can contact me privately if you have any other questions and we'll take it up from there. Thank you so much and good night.